My guest today is a public relations expert and a brand strategist, one of the leading men. He's here because he said something recently that really, it didn't draw my eye. It didn't even depress me. It just shocked me. He essentially said that to succeed on social media in 2025 and perhaps beyond, you have to be a bad person. I mean, he didn't exactly say bad person. He said Baddie. Baddie. That not only struck me, but he and I have argued over the years about social media and how to succeed. Me being a church boy, I was always on the side of good. Anyway, I have finally capitulated to his superior wisdom on the matter. So the question is, do you have to be a bad person to make it in the world in which we live today? It's going to be a fantastic discussion. It's my pleasure to welcome my friend from, when you say you have day one people, this is my day one person from way back. His name, as they named him, is Ayeni Adekunle, but he chose to style himself. The moniker he chose for himself was, or is, Ayeni the Great. This is the deep dive.
But Hushpuppi was out there. And he was inspiring millions of young Nigerians. Because these guys are poor, they just want success. There's no concept of what is the national dream. It seems to me that the Nigerian dream is Mofe Lowo, Mofe Lola, Mofe Jaye. Just let me have money so I can flex. That's why we have a society where internet fraud has become pseudo-acceptable, where you can't compete. If you're trying to date somebody, right, young guy, young girl, or you can't compete with somebody who is succeeding at internet fraud today. You see people now battling depression. This thing looks like a joke where everyone thinks their own life is not working because everybody's life that they see on TikTok and Instagram appears to be working. Everybody is popping champagne and living soft life and traveling and enjoying themselves, and they are posting happy family, their kids, their wife, their husband, and you are in your room, you are in your dark room and just wondering, who did I offend? Meanwhile, nobody's life is together, but nobody comes online to post their struggles. There's a lot of actual damage being done by leaders who have voice, by the Elon Musk of this world, by the Donald Trumps of this world, who don't care, who just say, and who just do. And he has actual, specific, measurable effect on economies and on states, and it trickles down to individuals. So we're going to enter an age where this attention currency is going to be an actual currency. The challenge that we have, the work that we have, is to make sure that it doesn't damage society, that it can be harnessed in such a way that the loudest voices are not the criminal voices.
What an arrogance, kind of. what arrogance? Who calls himself the Great?
It's an ambition.
It's an ambition.
Yes, I chose that name in year 2 in University of Ibadan. I was studying microbiology.
Yeah.
I was just a 200 level student who had shortcomings and challenges based on my background and all of that, and I wanted to inspire myself to greatness. So I had not even read as much. I mean, half as I've read now, but I chose that name as a reminder of what the ambition was, of what the possibility was. That was 2001, thereabout. So before BHN, before all the things I'm known to do, I'd always had that name as somebody who was in my early 20s, So people think it's arrogant. It was an ambition, and I'm trying my best as of now to live up to that name. It's a long journey. But even when you want to deviate, even when you remind yourself why you are doing what you're doing, hopefully you can exit the stage and leave a legacy of greatness that can inspire people who were not even alive when you were here.
Yeah. But then I blow it up for you because I never call you Ayeni the Great. I use all sorts of synonyms.
Ayeni the Magnificent, Ayeni
the Splendiferous, Ayeni the Fantastic, Ayeni the Incomparable. I like it.
Yeah.
ATG.
Yeah.
And you look awesome.
I'm a young man, sir. I'm 25.
No, 15. Yeah, 15.
I'm trying to be as young as Teju is.
I'm glad to have you. I'm genuinely, I don't know if you can see the lights radiating from behind my eyes because you don't easily do these things.
I'm a behind the scenes guy. I don't want to be known. My work requires a lot of discretion. And our job is to build brands and build people and try and guide organizations on what to do and what not to do. It's not my job. It's not a requirement for me to be out there. I was out there when I was a music journalist. I was a bit out there in the early days, but once we pivoted into corporate communications and public relations, and we work for a lot of significant organizations, companies listed on the stock exchange, very serious organizations. You have to be careful. You have to define what works for the kind of company that you're trying to build. So I try not to center myself, so to speak.
Okay. But you always wear white and black. White and black. You started this over a decade ago now.
Yeah.
Well, so my question is this. I like it. Yeah. But I'm not a dandy, neither am I a haberdasher, I like clothes. I admire, but
you're a dandy. You're a dresser's dresser. From way back, you are a dresser's dresser.
Thank you.
I mean, so I don't have the luxury. Look at how you're dressed. I don't have the luxury. I want to be ready for work in 5 or 10 minutes. I don't want to have to think of the kind of bow tie I have to wear, the color, the style, my belt, my socks,
to my
and not to match.
This and that and all
I
of
was
that.
trying to escape poverty. I was trying to just focus on one single thing, being there for my family and being able to work. So when I discovered that I could wear one color, it was like a miracle. I'm like, okay, that's nice. So I opened my wardrobe. I don't have to bother whether the trousers is the same as the top, or I'm sure what I'm wearing, if you scrutinize, the agbada is probably different from, I really don't care, So I want to focus on, I'm trying to do a lot in a short time. We don't know how long we have here, right? So the little time I have, and I want to build generational success. So I picked my battles, right? So so I wear only white, mostly whether I'm here, whether I'm abroad, I wear just white, and I can be ready in 2 or 3 minutes. And I always have a spare with me. So even if wine or something or whiskey pours on this, I just have to call for another spare. I change and I move on. Yeah. So it makes my life really, really simple.
You always have a spare.
I always have a spare.
I learned that the hard way. I was emceeing a wedding. I never forget at the late St. Agnes. No, what's that? The cathedral, the convent in Maryland.
In Maryland, yeah.
I forget what it's called now, but I was emceeing something there. Would have been 2006, and it was a wedding, and so it was time for the bridal dance, and the bride and groom had gone, and so where they were sitting on was a raised dice. Platform, it was a raised dice. It was a platform, and so the stairs to ascend were on either side of platform. And when they were dancing, I needed to go do something down, and I was too lazy to go all the way. So I jumped down. And then when it was time to climb back up, I thought, well, since I jumped down, so I stretched my leg and my trousers tore from seam to seam. The sound was like a gunshot. To me, fortunately, they were dancing, so nobody heard. My trousers tore. The seams came apart. I didn't have a spare anywhere. Fortunately for me, I don't know if they still offer that service, but back in the day, Garment Care in Jerry,
they still offer the service.
So I ran into my car, drove to GRA Keja, told the band that they should extend the music. Quickly ran in, rushed upstairs where I knew the seamstresses were. They chased me, and thank God I was wearing boxers.
They still offer that service.
Then I ran back to the wedding. So always keep a spare.
Yes, always have a spare, and so it works.
But how do you recreate this? It's easy when it's native in Nigeria, when it's agbada and buba and shukra. How do you recreate that when you are abroad?
T-shirts, jeans, pants, white, off-white, white. It's difficult to maintain white because of the cold and there's not a lot of sun.
Exactly.
But I've done it 8-9 years. I've been traveling overseas a lot since 2000 and maybe 7-8, and my family moved abroad in 2017. So I've spent considerable time in the UK, and I just...
This show is proudly supported by Finserve Pro. Look, listen, if you're an immigrant living in these United States, you already know The American tax system is not for the faint of heart. The rules are complicated, the deadlines are strict, and the penalties for getting it wrong, I mean, they can follow you for years. And that's why I don't play with this part of my life, and neither should anybody, neither should you, okay? So whether you're on a visa or on a green card, yes, you heard me. There are certain types of visas where you need to file taxes, or a green card, or you're a new citizen. You need people who understand how to help you stay compliant without confusion, without stress, and without losing money that you shouldn't, because you can lose money on taxes as well. That's why I recommend Finserve Pro. They specialize in helping Africans and other immigrant communities navigate the complicated US taxes legally, efficiently, and very, very affordable. So visit their website today at www.finserve.pro. Your number one tax solution in the diaspora as an Africa diasporan. Thank you very much, Finserve Pro.
You know, we sat, you always remind me about that. You and I sat looking at the ocean
At TA's place.
on TA's balcony.
Yeah.
Years ago, that might have been 2018. And we're discussing
Maybe even before that, yeah.
yeah, the concept of having a life on two sides of the world.
Yeah.
You know, perhaps having a home
Yeah.
that you go to away from work, having established Nigeria as home. And I must say, you have inspired me greatly.
Yeah.
Your ability to traverse continents, does the travel not, of course, your own commute is shorter than mine.
Yeah,
You know, yours is a 6-hour commute. Mine is about
At the same time zone.
same time. So I mean, so I guess, but you do it crazily, don't you? How often are you going back and forth?
A lot. At times twice in a month, at times once in a month, at times, you know. I've been to the UK thrice this year.
And we just
And,
we just entered April.
Yeah. So you want to succeed with business and with career, but you aspire to do it not at the expense of family and health.
Say that again. You want to
so-
succeed in your business and your career, but you don't want to do it at the expense of that thing.
Yeah.
So as I tell people, I have there are myriad reasons why I've remained out of the country for a minute.
Yeah.
Part of it was COVID. Part of it that I've not really spoken about was I needed to clear my head because the Tejube Face show took a lot out of me. But part of it was also that I think Toby and I underestimated what it would take to raise two babies in America. So
in a new place.
So having seen that challenge, I'm like, nah. If my career cannot survive what my family needs, then I guess we'll go and do something.
Yeah. So for me, ultimate success is being able to not ruin your health, being able to not ruin your relationships, and being able to still become the best that you could possibly be. And if you were to sacrifice here and there, my personal view, I apologize in anticipation. My personal view is that you can make compromises career-wise. You're not that indispensable. There's no the work we do. We're not inventing submarines and sending people to space and all of that.
We're not doing cancer research.
Yeah. So, and if God really, really, really helps you, you look back at 50 and 60 and you have everything. My dream is to have everything. So I'm very particular about physical fitness. I've been doing intermittent fasting for God knows how long. I eat once in a day.
My man.
Yeah.
My doctor was still fighting with me just 2 weeks ago that, look, you can't be doing this 18-hour between meals thing constantly. You have to. But I said, look, sir, I have too many clothes and suits that are made to measure. It's too. The cost will be too prohibitive for me to gain weight. Amongst, including the health benefits of keeping your stomach empty for a long time as well.
So you eat well, you exercise, you prioritize family. And family can be friends, can be siblings, can be children, can be partner. Just understand what works and where you can get support from. Because at the end of the day, that's what matters more. When the chips are down, when the scales are off, when you are sick. I was very sick 2-3 years ago. I was in Lagos. I was at Reddington for God knows how many weeks. It was just family that was left. It was just family. At the end of the day, it's your siblings and those that care about it. It's not like the other guys don't care about you. My business did not halt for a second. There was nothing. I owned the business. The work was going on. Except the only clients that knew I was sick were the ones I told. Nothing stopped. If I drop dead today, people will post on Instagram, some people will cry, and all of that, people will move on. That's how the world works. So when the scales come off, it's just your family. So you want to add, if you're ambitious and you're talented and you feel that God has sent you somewhere with a specific kind of purpose, you're inspired to do great stuff, to solve problems and help humanity.
Yeah.
But I don't think God wants us to do it at the expense of those He has also put in our care, like young children, that you need to parent and put into the world, and you don't want them to be part of the problem, right? So finding that balance is what, meanwhile, the way Nigeria is structured, I've held these views since I was in university. If you really want to help Nigeria, you must have a global mindset. You must be so international in your thinking that you can have the right contacts, the right resources, be so successful that you can come back into Nigeria and use your skill, your expertise, your contact, and your money to solve Nigeria's problems. Most of those who imagine leadership, that's what they've done. It's the concept of nurseries where, there are some plants that if you just plant them where there are shrubs, you know what egun in Yoruba?
Of course.
Yeah, where they are. They're not going to grow.
Thorns.
Yes, as they are trying to grow, the thorns will tear them apart. So you take them to a nursery, you groom them, they grow to a certain level, and then you go and transplant them.
Yeah.
So since I was in uni, I've always been saying, try and look at the World Bank and try and imagine yourself as the MD of the World Bank. Try and look at Switzerland, try and look at America, try and be so global in your view. Because Nigeria needs new thinking, Nigeria needs new knowledge, Nigeria needs a lot of money, Nigeria needs new principles, Nigeria needs structure. So whether you want to be president of Nigeria, or you want to be governor of your state, or you want to be MD of BHM, or you just want to add value to an NGO, whatever you want to do, you are better off being aware. Before the old Chapa, before it became a necessity for people to actually go abroad and before all of these issues. I was in university, I've always said that. So traveling back and forth and all the sacrifice is the pain that you go through for trying to position yourself in such a way that you can be one of the voices out there advocating possibly for Nigeria and for Africa.
Okay, so I paid the price for that ambition. The price being my extended stay away from Nigeria.
Yeah.
Thank God for, and I say this with all humility, thank God for a lot of career capital that I have and I had over the years. So when that thing began to bite, when the absence began to bite, I had a lot of capital stored so that it didn't deplete me. But I paid a price for being away for so long. In fact, people think I exaggerate when I say that they actually wrote my career obituaries. Somebody wrote, I want to have that thing framed in my office. Said, Teju Babyface, 6 greener pastures in the US. Yeah, so somebody laughed here. That's what they said. His career having not worked out in Nigeria. That was the essential. It wouldn't have been as painful if it hadn't happened at the point where I was really doubting myself there. Because that thing came out towards the end of COVID, where I'd been cast adrift. So if it had happened at any other time, I would have laughed at who is this hungry one. But they knew to publish that thing at the point where I was really actually saying, what in the name of God have I put myself into? I mean, so I paid those prices and, that price and all that. So, but you seem to have done it priceless. Without paying a price.
You always pay a price.
Yeah.
If I'm to be honest, my kids were very young when my family moved. So my kids have essentially grown up in a culture different from ours and not able to understand. When we speak Yoruba and we can speak in parables and all of that, So that's a price where, yes, your kids will get the best of education, they will get some exposure, but you really wish they were here. Every time I bring them back here, they don't want to go back because they like the environment. They see their cousins and they see their aunts and uncles. It's sunny, it's very, very nice. That's a price that you pay. The second price is that it becomes more difficult to keep relationships. You're just out there. At times I go and say, you are here. Once you are honest about what you're doing, some people think, you've jackpot. I'm like, guy, I'm here.
It's amazing.
I'm just internationalizing.
Does it annoy you when every other person you see? I thought you ran away.
Yeah, I'm like,
when are you running? Who ran?
I've got a business in Ghana, in Kenya, in Tanzania, in Edinburgh, in London, in America. I can't afford to stay back in Lagos and just be here. I'm internationalizing, right? So that's a sacrifice because those who want to demarket you will demarket you when you are not in the room. Oh, that guy is no longer here now. Let's give it to this guy. That's a sacrifice. Then if you are in a committed long-term relationships, it becomes. I'm a bit luckier because I'm in the same time zone with my family. I'm married. I've been married 20 years this year. So it's easier if you are in the same time zone, but it still puts a strain on your relationships because at the end of the day, you are now doing relationship by FaceTime audio and by FaceTime video and so on and so forth. And at times you come to Nigeria or you go to Accra or you go to Dar es Salaam and go and hustle and you get back abroad and you just want to rest. But abroad is DIY. I'm sorry.
Rest for where?
You've got to go empty the bin. You've got to apply yourself.
Yes.
Right. So, but for every sacrifice, I can joke about it because the benefit is monumental. It's monumental. If I knew then what I know now, I would have internationalized earlier.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And if I also knew then what I know now, I would have paid more attention to even governance from the Nigerian point of view. Because the end point of everything we are doing is to make our country successful sustainably.
Yes, sir. Yes,
At the end of the day.
Yes, sir.
At the end of the day, is to make sure Nigeria is blessed, Africa is blessed, we're talented, we've got resources and all of that, we're struggling here and there, and it looks like it's going to go on forever. I don't know if my generation will solve the problem. I don't know if my children's own or their children's own, but someday this country will be one of the greatest in the world. We've got everything it takes. So if I knew then what I know now, I would have paid more attention even earlier to governance, even to money. We grew up not caring about money. I was an artist. I was a writer who became a journalist, who just felt what mattered most was doing what you love and your passion. And as people joke about it, Dangote is not passionate about cement. How do you become passionate about crude oil? People who build true wealth understand how economics work, understand how money works, and they put it to work. And they solve important problems and they benefit from solving that problem. Then they have enough bandwidth to indulge in the things that they care about. I love music. I was a music journalist. If I have my way, I will never do anything else but music journalism. I know it. But in 2006, yes, I realized that if I didn't give myself brain, I will end up being a 60-year-old. I will say, but boy, Ayeni, brilliant, gone. But when I'm leaving, they will pay for my beer, then they'll give me something for transport. And thank God I was exposed to older people who could counsel. Lagbaja was one of those. Lagbaja is a musician. One of those who first said to me, you write so well. Why can't you consider writing for maybe The Guardian and these days, or some international platforms? They pay well and all of that, Keke and D1. I was good friends with Sam Sultan and Baddie. God rest Sam Sultan. So we took me to Keke.
Amen.
And Keke said, you write so well, you should be a publicist. I never heard about the word publicist. I had no idea what it was. So if I didn't make the switch early from creative, who just did what he loved, to trying to do something that could be structured, because then we started solving problems for artists, and then we realized that the same principles, the same methods, the same skills that you're using to solve problems for artists, you can use it to solve problems for companies. And the artists go to the companies to make money. So why do you want to wait for the artists to go and make money and then they come and then you make some part of it when you can actually go? It was 2009. Friends again. Deola Atalade, Fumi, Victor Okigbo, Kevin Orifa. I've always had older friends, more experienced friends who said, this thing you do for artists and celebrities, you can do it for corporate. It's the same thing. And 2009, we switched. So I got the switch right with business. And now we work for name it, market leaders. Name any sector, we work for the market leaders. 7, 8, 10 years and all of that, But I wish I made the switch earlier in understanding the role of the individual in nation building. And that no matter how successful you are as an individual, I'm sorry, even if I get a British passport or an American passport tomorrow, I'm Nigerian, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
No matter how successful you are as the individual, okay, you're part of a community and you are more successful, right? If I didn't have to drive down here now and just get on the train or get on the bus and come here, true success of a society is what is how every is that leveler, right? Where you don't need escorts and mopo. You know, when we arrive at the airport in Nigeria, you know the big men, when someone comes to meet them in front of the queue, takes their
Yes.
passport, I always laugh, take their passport. Even when I get protocol support when I land, I say to them, sorry, I can carry my bag. You're just here just to guide me. I don't need you making me, where that doesn't need to happen. So you make the sacrifices, you suffer the pain, but the benefits, I think if you are lucky to have the right support, again, support means, in my view, pastoral support. Your marriage will go through tough times. So you need to get the right counseling and get professional therapy. Speak to psychologists, right? You need to define the rules upon which to run your business if you are going to be half remote and half present. And if you have children or if you have a partner, so if you are honest with yourself and you put the right structures in place, the sacrifices can be managed because you have control over most of those. The ones you don't have control over, for example, is exchange rate. I'm sorry, is macro, right? So if you put that structure in place, it gets better. It does get better. And if you don't delude yourself that, oh, Nigeria, the evil you have done is done. I've jackpot. No, you're just trying to provide an opportunity for you to transform your career and your lives. In my view, with the hope that you can be so positioned to come and be part of Nigeria's solutions. And you can do that remotely. You can also do that on ground. You may never have to move back and come and live here and run for office and run MTN and so on and so forth. You may just be this guy who has now become a big deal at Goldman Sachs and who has privilege to influence policies that may benefit the country. There are so many ways that you can add value.
My man. I tell the younger ones, especially the ones who are in the expressive comedic acts, now what they call skit making.
Yeah.
I counsel quite a few of them. Bros, I want to have this American thing that you have. I'm like, you have to be willing to sacrifice.
Yeah.
You have seen me do it now. Yeah. My career hasn't died.
Yeah.
Whatever hits I took, here I am now, going in and coming out.
Yeah.
When you leave, you're not running away. Never mind what they say. They are misinformed. You're eventually doing it for the good of Nigeria and your country.
Yeah.
To be pegged in one place in the world, and so they tell you now, opportunities have arisen wherever in the world, and you're talking, I'm looking for a date to travel. They have to interview me, and then you eventually go after you bribe your way through, and then they deny you.
Yeah.
I mean, how does that position you in the minds of your would-be global partners? Yeah, so you're not running away. Never mind what they say. Not everybody runs. But you're doing it for your family. You're doing it for the country. I said, if you don't believe what I'm saying, go check out what the repatriation from the diaspora is every year. That's a significant portion of what builds our economy. So I like that you put that in its proper perspective. There's no need. They have taken light. We're just talking about it now. They literally have taken light in the place where we're and light has come. So light has come. So so light has come. We thank. I don't know whether they now switch from generator to public power supply. It doesn't matter. Okay, so let's get into the meat of the matter. I watched it was the speech that you gave at the Headies. I think it was the press conference. Announcing the Headies. And then you also wrote a piece about it. That 2025 is the year of the Baddie, and beyond is the year of the Baddie. You have to. You didn't say it in as many words, but my takeaway was that you have to essentially be shameless, lack morals, lack compunction. You just have to do what an omoluabi, what the Yorubas call an omoluabi, would not do. Has been conditioned not to do, to make it and get attention on social media. If you're a good person who believes in virtues and doing things right and all of those, you will struggle. And that disturbed me because, and with all humility, I mean, we all have our bad side, we all have our dark side, but largely, I am a good person. I don't dabble in controversies. It's not my thing. Whatever is noble, whatever is pure, whatever is perfect, whatever is inspirational, motivational, uplifting. That's where I want to be. And you're telling me that is a struggle in the world in which we live and beyond. So please explain.
Okay, so part of my work requires using data and insight, like an understanding of not just what's going on right now, but based on understanding what's going on right now, you can plot what could happen tomorrow, right? Like polling in politics and elections. So my work. So I run a company called BHM,
Black House Media.
Black House Media.
Nínú ìkòkò dúdú
Yeah.
lẹ́kọ̀ọ́ funfun tí ń
Wow.
jáde.
Wow.
I
Thank
love
you.
it.
Yeah. So that name was derived from the Yoruba proverb.
Yeah.
Inú ìkòkò dúdú lẹ̀kọ̀ funfun tí ń jáde, which means that from the so-called dark continent of Africa, from the so-called third world country, that's ìkòkò dúdú.
Yeah.
My belief is that that's where the greatness that will transform the world for better would come.
My
over
man,
time.
my man.
So that's how we derived the name Black House Media. And we do communications consulting. We advise a lot of companies here and in different parts of the world. We've consulted for Heineken in Nigeria, that's Nigerian breweries, since 2019. I've been very blessed with opportunities and with great clients who believe in what we're doing and who just support us. We've worked for MTN Nigeria, Communication PLC, I think since 2017, MultiChoice, DSTV, those kind of organizations, a lot of them. Companies that have been their fans, that I drink whiskey, so I drink the Macallan. I love it. And then you find out that you have a chance to work on their brand.
Yeah, that's the first thing you ask when you go there. Where's my whiskey?
Yeah. So those kind of things. So my work requires that we understand consumer behavior, we understand media trends, we understand technology. So when I said to you so many years ago that pay attention to social media,
And we argued.
Yeah.
My!
So
did I argue with
yeah,
you? Or
yeah.
I
So-
argued. I said never. They are fooling themselves there. They're just making.
Yeah.
You said we argued there.
yeah. So my work requires that almost like you need to be able to see the future. Because you don't solve problems just when they happen. What's at stake for big companies is too much. Companies plan. If you run an airline company, it's not when there's been a plane crash or when there's power cut at Heathrow and everything is off that you start planning. What do we do? Companies literally have plans. They literally have done drills. So anyway, my work requires that you have knowledge about the environment and you can advise on what to do and what not to do. So since 2018, 2019, the world, and I think COVID was the nail on it. The world has been changing. The way people monetized content was changing. When we grow up, if you do a good movie, it's a good movie, right? There's a cinema schedule. If it's in the cinema, people go to the cinema and they liked it. You didn't have to dance on Instagram.
You have to take off your clothes.
You don't have to do all of that. If you wanted to learn how to speak English, your parents told you to watch the flagship news, right?
Yes, sir.
The newscasters understand pronunciation and all of that.
Yes, sir. You
So-
watched Cyril Stoba, Franco
Yeah,
Bize,
yeah.
Patrick Oke.
Yeah. So the advent of a different kind of advertising, monetization became algorithm based. How many times people clicked on something? How many times people saw something? How many times they forwarded it? So that concept kept changing gradually. Music streaming is mainstream. Google, in my view, one of, if not the biggest advertising agency in the world. Google is more advertising than technology because almost every platform in the world monetizes through Google's advertising network, right? Search. Before, if you wanted to know what was happening, you went online and you went to search. Way back, it was Yahoo, and then it became Google. And you could search and trust that what you would see was the information available on the internet, indexed by the Google search engine. But it became, if you went to search, almost all the first results that you saw were paid results, were commercial results. Kept changing. In bits and pieces, you have to pay attention to it. Social media became a game of, if you wanted to get traction, because social media is doom scrolling. People are bored, they're in a meeting, they're waiting for a flight or a bus. They do one of two things. They play Candy Crush and those games on their phones, or they just scroll Twitter and scroll Instagram or scroll TikTok now, right? And they scroll vertically. All those platforms, you scroll vertically. For you to stop, I'm just on my phone. I really am not doing that. I'm just scrolling. What will make me stop my scrolling? Note, I'm scrolling. I'm looking for something to grab my attention. What will make me stop? I can stop first and say, okay, Teju, this is not bad. Instablog, to the head note, this is not bad. I've stopped, but I can continue moving. Or will I stop and watch for a few minutes? Two different things. Let me use what maybe most of us might understand. I'm trying to come to your house, Teju. Or I've just driven out, just to go and check out Lagos, and I pass by your house. If I don't stop, you are doomed. I've just moved on. 0. If I stop and knock and say, oh, Bafa, I say, make I greet you, and I move on, maybe 5-10%. But I may actually stop and come in for a coffee. That's what stopping and watching the entire content means, whether it's a reel or it's a video. And that's actually not bad, you know. Or, not only have I stopped and we are having coffee, we've ordered food and we've called TA and someone else to actually join us. So, social media became, as I'm scrolling, will I stop? If I stop, do I stop for a second and continue moving? Because it's called bounce rate. It applies to websites too. So people come on your site, you know, they really know what they say and they're out. All those things are measured. When I stop, do I watch? When I watch, do I just continue watching? Or do I type that chat circle and leave a comment? Do you know what it means? That I've stopped my doom scrolling. You now have enough of my attention, that I've consumed your content, and now have a view. I want to insult somebody, I want to praise somebody, I want to commend you. I actually leave in a comment. It's powerful. Or, having left a comment, do I then continue? Or do I click on the kite stuff? That is the share. Is it compelling enough for me to then share with my friends and family? That became the new rule. You know, newspapers. You read newspapers and you left it. You traveled on the train, you pick a paper, you read it, and you just moved on. When you watch NTA News or Channel News, you are not trying to share. So the technology companies defined a system to monetize attention. And the base of it is you seeing. It's called impressions. I seen. Okay, maybe XYZ people saw it or they didn't see it. It's okay. The most significant way that you can demonstrate that attention is for someone to be sharing. Not only have they consumed, they've interacted with it, they've left comments, and they've shared. And they can go on and on. It's so great that people now create their own. You see all those challenges where not only have I seen your content, I'm now even now doing my own with my friends. And so monetizing creativity changed right under our nose. What it means, and unfortunately, bad news travels. What it means is that, how do I get Teju to stop scrolling? And don't forget, most of those who create content now have to monetize through social media, directly or indirectly. Whether because you are monetizing directly with Instagram and Twitter and YouTube and co. Or success there helps elevate your brand in such a way that brands can say, that guy has 14 million followers and see his engagement. We think we want to work with him, right? What then that means is that the level of talent available to do what a Tunde Onokoya is doing, because there are positive people who are not, the level of talent available to do what Hilda Bassi did, the level of talent available to be so wholesome and so positive is scarce. What that means is that in an environment of poverty, in an environment of limited training and knowledge, people are just going to push and polarize as much as they want. That's one. So you will see the Tunde Onokoyas. You will see people who are not breaking people, who are not polarizing, who are just in their corner doing amazing stuff that makes you almost want to cry, right? You will see that. But you will see the Tayo I know, who is just doing his tourism stuff and just say, guys, I just want to go around the world. You will see really inspiring stuff. People who just do great stuff on their own, and it will be successful. But for every one of those, you will see thousands. People who normally are either not talented or who don't have any scruffs and so on and so forth. That's one. So there's an incentive for people to sensationalize because the algorithm itself is not chronological. And I must say this, in 2018, before, when Instagram started, when Twitter started, when you post something, tell you and I'm following you, I see it when I get on Twitter. I see it when I get on Facebook. It was chronological. But because they had to sell advertising, because they had to also monetize, most of those platforms want to monetize in their early days, but it's very expensive to keep those platforms up. The server cost alone. So today, nothing is chronological. You have to be an advanced user to know how to go and set up your feed in such a way that you see posts from friends and family first. Now, you might post something on Facebook. I may not see it in 4 days. I may never see it. Right? And so, because of the way the algorithm works, people now know that, oh, for me to get attention, I have to provoke. So people will rage bait and do all of that. It also fuels misinformation, a lot of misinformation. They know something has not happened, something is false, but they put it out because they want you to stop scrolling and consume. Now, that's one. And I don't blame anybody. I'm just using the little bit of my knowledge to just analyze. The second one is that, unfortunately, the world is rewarding people who are behaving badly. The President of the United States of America is an example. You could have sworn 10, 20 years ago that he would never have been president once, not to talk of twice. The richest man in the world is one of the most polarizing figures of all time. That's America. Every country you look at, the media platforms with the most traction today in Nigeria are the most polarizing. The influencers and talking heads with the most attention are the most polarizing. Unfortunately, so the world, and guess what? To get paid by the brands, to get paid by the social media platforms, what language are they using? Engagement. So when you say, do you know that Teju has 9.1 million followers and his engagement last month was X percent? Well, nobody is saying, but how many of them, were they insulting him? Were they praising him? People just want access to your 9.1 million followers, and they want you to also post for them in such a way that they can also leverage that. So actors have reached a place in Nigeria where to get cast for a movie, the producers are saying, we have to sell this movie. If we cast you, yes, we want your talent, but are we also going to get engagement? Are people going to come and watch this movie because you are there?
Forget your talent.
So your talent is no longer
Forget your
enough.
talent.
So we have entered the world now, and don't forget that from a Nigeria perspective, from an Africa perspective, we are getting poorer. People are struggling to pay bills. What it cost me to have my breakfast 2-3 years ago, it cost me times 5 to have it today. So people are trying to put food on the table. People are just trying to exist. So I'm sorry, when you are faced with something that is existential, you are going to query your principles and ask yourself, yes, I was watching a Bobby skit yesterday, and he was talking about principles that money cannot buy him, money cannot buy him. But then this NFF guy gave him tickets to go and see a match in London, and it was box ring. He was going to sit next to the FIFA guys and all of that, And then he got to the front as he was going to scan his ticket. One guy walked up to him and said, why can't you send me your ticket? He said, no, what the hell? That's unethical. I can't do that. And the guy said, 10,000 quid. And at that moment, he realized that actually, maybe it's not bad for money to buy me. It's funny, but it's the truth. Everybody has a price. People are trying to earn $60 from Twitter every month. And they know if they say something terrible about Davido, if they say something terrible about Tinubu, if they just say something or if they create something fake, people will start insulting them. They don't mind being insulted. You really don't know them, but they will get engagement. They will get to a certain level. YouTube, you might have X number of subscribers. If you don't have X number of watch hours, you can't even start monetizing. So we've reached a place where the business model for monetization online incentivizes sensationalism, polarization, and so on. Quote and unquote, bad behavior. 2, a lot of the leaders who are like you are people who are so decent, quote and unquote. And you are right, nobody is 100% decent. We're all human beings, we all have faults. But people who are not crooks, people who live by agreed rules and norms, they are not on Twitter every day tearing cloth. They're not on Instagram every day. They're not on TikTok live, right? Either because they don't have the time or they've just become very private. And my view is that the more exposed you are, the more knowledgeable you are, the more successful you are, the more discretion you are, the more quiet and private you want to be. The most successful people I know have only 7 followers on Twitter. Their Twitter account is with egg. They really don't want to. They're just there just to see what is happening. They are spending quality time with friends and family. They are not live streaming their lives. Except those who, of course, whose careers, whose professions require. If you're a Burna Boy, I'm sorry, then you've got to be out there. If you're a Wizkid, you've got to be out there. I'm talking about people who are banking leaders, business leaders, and so on and so forth. You know. But we've reached a place where the most vocal voices, the most successful voices out there, quote and unquote, are people who have no qualms about behaving badly. And it appears, and you know, we don't think in 10, 20, and hundreds of years. We think in minutes and hours and days. Because most of these things won't matter in 20 years. Trust me. I was with Chris Idero last weekend in Edinburgh. And they were saying, we're talking about Musk and Trump. Guy, we think it's the first time. It's happened before. In 40 years, it won't matter again. Trust me. The world will reset itself. In fact, you will tell people they will argue with you. When the pandemic came, was when I became aware that there was a pandemic in 1918 or so, right? People argue now. People, if you talk about what happened in Nigeria, if you talk about the Biafra War, a 25-year-old will look at you and wonder, why are you guys making a big deal about this stuff? They didn't live through it. So we think in terms of existence, what concerns us today, the next hour, the next day, the next week, the next month. So if I really, really want to make it, and I'm seeing somebody on TikTok and on Instagram who lives in Banana. Banana is one of the most expensive places you could live in Lagos, if not Nigeria today. And they live in Banana, and they are, you know, this week they're in Selfridges, they're in Harrods, you know, they are all over the world, you know, they are flying private and flying, and they are showcasing a lifestyle. And I'm seeing that, okay, they are not the MD of a bank, you know, they are not the champ, you know, I really don't know. Who do you think I want to be like? Right? Because I don't, apart from Tony Elumelu, who was the MD of a bank, who no longer runs the bank, apart from Tony Elumelu, I really don't know any bank MD that you can say, a young Nigerian can say, I've seen their lifestyle, I want to be like them. When will you hear from Segun Agbaje? You don't even know what it looks like. Jimovia, you will see him, you will see his picture, you see him in the media, you really know, you know. Everard and Ike, to some extent they did that, but they were not out there. But Hushpuppi was out there. And he was inspiring millions of young Nigerians. Because these guys are poor, they just want success. And don't forget, and I said, at a time in our lives where there's no concept of value, there's no concept of what is the national dream. I ask this question all the time. What is the Nigerian dream? We must be able to answer that question. What is the Nigerian dream? Right? It seems to me that the Nigerian dream is Mofe Lowo, Mofe Lola, Mofe Jaye. Just let me have money so I can flex. That's why we have a society where internet fraud has become pseudo-acceptable, where you can't compete. If you're trying to date somebody, right, young guy, young girl, or you can't compete with somebody who is succeeding at internet fraud today, right? We've reached a place where what's the Nigerian dream? What's the thing that binds us together? I say, no, I'm a Nigerian. I can't be seen to be doing that. Or I have to be doing that because I need to support Nigeria in this way. Countries that succeed, they define that, right? So you find that the people who are quote and unquote being rewarded publicly, you know, I said there are private people being rewarded. There are people in consulting, in financial services, in PR, in banking, in oil and gas that you never heard of, who are doing the right thing, who are above board and who are very, very successful. But you don't see them, you don't hear from them. Elon Musk is one of many billionaires in America. Okay? But if you ask every young person around the world, they probably know the A to Z of Elon Musk's life and career. They probably don't know jack about Warren Buffett. Right? So we've reached a point where it appears that if you want to hack the system, if you want to succeed, right, you have to be. Now, the Baddie.
Pause there. Let's wait for lights again. All this is going on the show. Every single bit of it. I'm not cutting out a single part.
Are you serious?
No, I'm not. No. Which is why I like the podcast-ish format of the show. Let them see what is happening. Right. Yeah, it's going on the show. All right, so we're back. The electricity just came back on. It's been about 10 minutes, and we've lost our train of thought because we're interacting in the intervening time, as you might imagine. Being one of the smartest guys that I know, always speaking his brain whenever we have the opportunity to, judge. So we've forgotten where we were. But I'm going to try to bring it home. And, I was saying that since the people who are succeeding, but are decent, so to speak, quote unquote, who are decent, who don't like to show themselves, who don't like to be, vain about it, who don't like to make noise about it, do they not owe a responsibility to the world to show that it can be done without losing every sense of decorum?
They don't. It's not an obligation. As many as could, should, but it's not an obligation. Nobody owes us anything. And people have reasons for being how and who they are, and we've got to respect that. Some people are dealing with issues, some people have reasons and so on. I gave my own reason why, as my company grew bigger, it became a requirement for me. The board didn't have to tell me. I knew the kind of work we were doing, the kind of meetings I was sitting at, the kind of clients we were having. I knew, it's like being the CEO of a publicly listed company, right? Where saying one thing can affect your company's share price, So people have all sorts of reasons why you may not even understand it, right? And we've got to respect that. One of my favorite Twitter accounts is a gentleman called Derek Guy.
Derek Guy. Okay.
Yeah, the handle is Die Workwear. He's a menswear writer.
Okay.
Millions around the world have attested to how much they've learned from him just being on Twitter.
Just by not from the clothes that he does, but just by what he writes.
He writes. He doesn't make clothes. He's just a guy that just likes clothes. And
he likes clothes. So
he likes about clothes, and he writes about it. But in a very, I never paid any attention to the King of Spain. But now, I know him. I know his face. I know his name. I know how he dresses. He's just somebody who talks about bad dresses and good dresses, and give you tips and all of that on how to dress, and so on and so forth. And he's a very brilliant guy, very awesome. I bring that up to say, but the level of hate that he gets, the level of pushback,
level of vitriol,
that he gets, and I'm like, this guy really just writes about clothes, like really, right? But he's doing it because he enjoys it, and at the end of the day, it's net positive, I'm sure, for him, because the people who derive value, who give credit, are more than whoever, and so on and so forth. That's just an example.
Yeah.
I've given you the Tony Elumelu's example, who wasn't doing this when he was a bank MD. Tony Elumelu was not flying the world in private jets, and doing headstands and doing all the things he does now when he was a banker, because you really would struggle to justify a bank MD. Banking is heavily regulated. But now he's the chairman of the holding company. He's not running the bank. He's got an MD. So he's got an opportunity to do more. I've read more of his stories. I was telling somebody, I don't know Tony Elumelu personally. I probably only met him twice. I was at this party in New York. I've seen him at the George one. He doesn't know me. But I've read his story from a distance, and I've interacted with people who work directly with him. I've read different of the stories he has shared. He shares more now. He shares on Facebook. He shares on Twitter. He's shared of the story of the day when he was in the bus, going home and working late. He's doing more now because I'm sure where he is at his career allows him to do that. If you're a young Nigerian who wants to be successful, you will look at him and say, I can trace this gentleman's success. It inspires me. I will make this change. I will change this. I will change that. I will do that. His wife doesn't really cut attention, but she runs marathons around the world. He's so healthy, he's so awesome. You look at it, she's not competing for anybody's attention, right? So there are people like that. We need hundreds of them, if not thousands of them, around the continent, right? However, the configuration of today's media means that there might be many doing it that are not getting traction. In line with my early example of how the algorithms work, there is likely somebody somewhere who is so inspiring, who is a PhD, who's an academic, who's an inventor, who is telling about, who has done 8 books. But because they are not sensationalizing, because they are not polarizing, don't forget that Elumelu in his own way is on the extreme. How many people can afford to own private jets and fly private jets? So you will notice Elumelu. And he can afford a team. He has an entire team. He can afford all of that. But there will be some ED somewhere. There will be some CEO somewhere. There will be some people doing great stuff somewhere who, are just quiet, who are not going to cut controversies. In my publicist days, in the early days of social media, I'll give this Wizkid anecdote where my advice is you need to understand your brand and stick to what works for your brand. And try not to give fuel to a fire that you don't need, right? I remember this very day that Wizkid and his team had come to the BHM office for a meeting. I can't remember what the issue was. But the discussion, and in our early days, we worked for all of these guys. In our discussion, the agreement was, you don't have to respond to all these people. People with 8 followers tweeting at you, and you are now retweeting them and now insulting them back. You have 800,000 followers. This guy has 25 followers. Just ignore him and move on. And I remember this particular that my counsel was, we need to be careful not to be giving attention to riffraffs. They want to use you to grow their own platform and their own audience. Wizkid is an interesting guy. He won't argue with you. He will tell you he has heard, but he knows what he wants to do. And I remember this day that everything I said they should not engage was when he went to go and engage. Early days of Twitter. This is maybe almost 20 years after. I can tell you that Wizkid was right. He knew that people respond to sensation. So you see now, somebody is doing something, you see the celebs engaging. You see people dragging each other. You see Burna Boy is fighting Cubana, he's fighting this one, another. They can afford to keep quiet. It's not like they are fighting. They understand that people are bored. People want engagement. People want to be entertained. You can't put out songs every day. What are you going to do? Wizkid understood it. King Sunny Ade, our Egbon, and Ebenezer Obey understood it. Kolinti Anyila, Keben Kwara, and Aida Barrister understood it. Kwamon understood it from day one. They understood that people. So that's what I said. I'm not blaming. I've analyzed how social media works, but I'm not blaming them. It's always been around. Donald Trump understands it. The risk why we can't draw the same parallel between the Trump and the Wizkid is that Wizkid is not running the country. But that boy is not running. They are actually entertainers. It is actually their job to keep us entertained. So when you see, I saw one actor yesterday insulting Funke Akindele. Funke doesn't really insult anybody. She's just trying to change her life and transform her career. I saw one guy insulting, I saw excerpt from a podcast, which I am sure was created to get attention for that podcast. But the part said Funke paid me 90K away. I spent a month in a wherever you don't. Then I saw the guy today, all the papers covered it. It was all over the blogs. Then yesterday or today, I saw the guy presenting and say, I'm sorry, Auntie Funke, you paid me 90K. The boy is not stupid. We were not talking about that guy. I forget his name now. We're not talking about him this time 2-3 months ago. But now, it's a factor. I knew when we were not on Instablog Nigeria. I knew when VDM was not a factor. And I can go on and on. So people are saying, how do I get attention? I don't have the same amount of money that Facebook or MTN or Dangote has to invest in marketing and AI agencies and strategy and buy media and so on and so forth. I don't have it. But I want to be heard. And it has never been more difficult to break through the clutter. We can talk about, yes, KSA and Obey and so on. But in those days, if you got on NTA Channel 7, KJ, you are good. If you got on NTA Channel 5, you're good. It was only channel. Today, to get attention, for Nigerians to hear you, you've got to do something. So, for entertainers, I can excuse it. I understand it. For business leaders, It's very dangerous. For state leaders, governors and presidents, it's dangerous because our entire survival is on the basis of how economies perform. The decision that one man, the decision that Burna Boy takes will affect his career and his immediate circle. And for every Burna Boy doing great now, there are thousands waiting. I know when Burna Boy was waiting, and I know how much work he put, how much effort, how much sacrifice himself and his crew and his mom made. I'm well acquainted with his mom. I know the effort. I know Wizkid, Studio Rat, how much sacrifice, how much work, how much effort he put in. Right? And they're enjoying their success and they're still putting in there. And they understand that, oh boy, I want attention. The currency is attention. You want people to come to you, right? So I can understand the drama and all the sensation. However, Wizkid fighting somebody on Twitter, Wizkid and Davido doing their drama, Davido doing all of that, does not crash the stock price of a company on the Nigerian stock exchange. Does not change the price of gold in the market. If it works, it continues to benefit. If it doesn't work, and we are lucky that our entertainment scene is not violent. You know, they will say on Twitter and yab each other, you know, we don't carry guns, they are not. The danger, one, and I'll list 5 quickly. One is to normalize crime by giving air, giving oxygen to people who are demonstrably criminal in what they are doing. And the platforms are not smart enough to say, this guy that is getting 14 million followers and doing MMM that is lying. Why can't we just, no. It's very, very dangerous. Young people are now thinking, oh, this is who I want to be like. Because, and a lot of them don't know better, right? And there's a lot of toxicity. There is a lot of normalization of fraud and crime and all of that, you know. Or gender hate and all of that, you know. That's one. 2, there is a lot of actual damage being done by leaders who have voice, by the Elon Musk of this world, by the Donald Trumps of this world, who don't care, who just say and who just do. And it has actual, specific, measurable effect on economies and on states, and it trickles down to individuals. 3 is that it looks like we are now moving into a world where he wouldn't matter your values, your principles. You know, my profession requires something, truth and honesty. The concept of public relations and stakeholder management is building trust. You want to tell people good morning, and they won't have to check the time and say, is it really? That's the whole concept. That's what makes countries not go to war. Because we say, don't worry, we won't attack you. And they say, okay, we have the handshake on it. It's trust. That's 3. We are entering a world where it looks like trust and truth. I can say, this is what I'm going to do today, and tomorrow I do something else. And so, what are you going to do? We've been there before. Again, we've been there before. Don't forget that wealth used to be, you have it, I can come into your house with my armies, and I can take it. And that's it. We've been there before. In the early days of existence, there were no borders. There were no banks. There were no rules. Were not there. I could literally come into you and kill you. Africa suffered. Africa is still paying the price of that. People could just take. It was power. It looks like we're going back there where rules don't matter, ethics don't matter, and it's very, very dangerous. Very, 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 very dangerous. 4, dangerous means that if there is no responsibility and accountability by, for example, these platforms, then what you find is that you can't even begin to understand how to solve the problem. Europe is accused of stifling innovation by their regulation, but I understand it. If there's no accountability, right, you will read stories in the newspapers of some chat rooms that would lead a young boy to go and take his own life. You will read all sorts of stuff. You will see people now battling depression. This thing looks like a joke where everyone thinks their own life is not working because everybody's life that they see on TikTok and Instagram appears to be working. Everybody is popping champagne and living soft life and traveling and enjoying themselves, and they are posting happy family, their kids, their wife, their husband, and you are in your room, you are in your dark room and just wondering, who did I offend? Meanwhile, nobody's life is together. I can guarantee you, whether you're Barack Obama or you're Bill Gates or you're Achaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, we're all dealing with one thing or the other, but nobody comes online to post their struggles. So it looks as if we're now going to create a generation of young people who are depressed, who are upset with themselves, and who think that is what success is not what matters. It's the appearance of success, which is very, very dangerous.
Once again, light has gone. And light has gone. Please continue.
I'm enjoying it. So you don't want to be in a world where it looks as if the appearance of success. So I have 14 million followers. That shouldn't be what matters. What matters is I can have 7,000 followers. If I'm a stockbroker, I can have 7,000 followers and actually have more influence in my field of play than some guy that has 40 million followers that is a sport analyst. If you want to leverage the expertise of an influencer, who should you be talking to? So there should be context. Right. The fifth and most dangerous thing, which captures everything, and that I said in the year of the Baddie think piece, is that the world is at a very dangerous place right now. You're following what's happening in Russia and Ukraine. You've seen what happened with Palestine and Israel. You've seen what's happening in America. You've seen what's happening around the world. There's never been a time in my own lifetime that we've needed to have a structure and a concept of what good should look like, of what decency should look like, of what ethics, all the things that we structured, governance, diversity, inclusion, equality, equity. There's never been a time. I don't think, my view, that those who suddenly find themselves in a world war, imagine that a world war is going to happen. When COVID started, we all thought it's going to go. It's good. Nobody thinks a pandemic is going to happen in their lifetime. My biggest fear is that with what is happening with China and America, with across Europe, with Russia and Ukraine, with Israel and Palestine. And if you come to Africa, across the Sahel, if you look at Rwanda and Congo, if you look at Sudan, if you look at even Nigeria, I didn't think in my lifetime our parents were a bit tribalist. My father, they would joke about it. They really don't mean it, but they lived through Biafra. My father would joke that none of his kids must cross Ore to go and marry anybody. He would joke about it. Of course, I have siblings that marry people from the East. He supported it. But you could understand their condition. I don't see tribe. I don't see race. I don't see tribe. I don't care if you are Igbo or you're Asa or you are Yoruba. I see talent. And I've been across Nigeria. I love Nigeria. I've spent time in the north. I've spent time in the east. I would never have imagined that in my own lifetime, I'll be on Twitter and I'll see people saying, well, they are trying to hire for this role. Why are they putting Igbo people in that role if it's in Southwest? We're in a mess. So the four risks are dangerous, but it's not as dangerous as entering into a place where the world will fall on its head. The way American democracy is headed. The conversations are across Europe. The battle for Africa, because now France is winning here and losing here. Russia is playing its games across different parts of Africa. You can see China's hand. You can see America's hand. The way their foreign policies are playing right now, the way domestic policies are changing, the way countries are becoming protectionist, in a space where the leaders of the world are suggesting that we really don't care what the rule says, what the law says. It's very dangerous. And guess what? In that age where, how do we all consume information? We all consume information on our mobile phone, and it's going to get better. Artificial intelligence is being mainstreamed. In fact, let me narrow it down. Generative AI is being mainstreamed. Everyone is going to carry a phone. Everyone is going to have a wristwatch, have glasses, have devices around them, empowered with the power of generative AI. Tools can be good, can be bad. The greatness of having all that technology, all that resource should be to help us do more, better, and quicker. But it can also be leveraged for evil. So if you go back to the beginning where our value systems have been compromised, where it now looks as if to be bad is fashionable, because you can see so many examples of people who don't have shame, who don't have ethics, who actually looks as if, when I started my career, if you did one thing wrong, your career is almost over. Everybody is careful to not say the wrong thing and just follow the rules and all of that, Now, it looks as if you actually don't say the wrong thing and do the wrong things, in Nigeria, the EFCC is a badge of honor. You have people who have EFCC issues who 2-3 years after, you're like, okay. So it's worrying because societies move forward or become compromised based on what they institutionalize. Generally. So the whole concept of here about I try my best. I'm a regular human being. But just like you, I believe that we have a responsibility to be good, to the best of our abilities. So I'm not a fan of a lot of things, but I'm a student of a lot of these things. And I can see that if you're trying to be a comedian today, I know how Ali's career grew. I've seen RMD's career. I've seen people who build their career, we will go to motherland. I've seen people whose careers were made just by having an opportunity to just make cameos at Lagbaja every last Thursday of the month, I think.
Friday.
Every last Friday of the month. We are reaching a place where I don't know, where I'm seeing your talent is no longer just enough. And some people are actually, you now have to learn the actual skill that you need. You now have to learn the skills for it, because social media also requires skills, because the rules change all the time, right? And so on and so forth. And you are doing everything right. You've been doing it for 8-9 years, and it looks as if, it's not working. And this one comes from nowhere and just goes on BB Niger, and it's controversial and comes out, and in 2 years, and they are big. And they're like, okay. Meanwhile, BB Niger is such a fantastic, such a fascinating platform, but it is a kind of platform, right? The same DSTV that did BB Niger did a wedding show that Nigerians did not really watch. I'm not even sure the show has happened since. Same DSTV. We still have the music talent shows. I'm like, why are you complaining about BB Niger? There's Nigerian Idol now. Watch it. But you just find that people are bored, people are lonely. So again, I said it. I'm not blaming the technology platforms. I'm not blaming the government, because even we ourselves, even me, on the worst of my days when I'm bored and I just want to suspend everything, I go on Instagram and I'm watching skits. And between Nasty Black and Nasboy and Mr. Macaroni and Tauma, by the time I'm done, I'm back to my life, right? And I see what is happening. Whether it's the girl accusing Bonner of not buying the Lamborghini for her, or the one showing that our own Lambo has come, I'm seeing all of that drama. And I'm seeing the level of media coverage they are getting. And if you take your mic out and you go and survey young girls out there and ask them, who do you want to be like? Ibukun Awoshika or this? I can assure you that a lot of them probably don't even know who Ibukun Awoshika is, or who Taraduro Toye is, and so on and so forth. Because Ibukun Awoshika is, you're going to see her videos once in a while. She's not a content creator, right? You probably don't know her husband, you probably don't know her kids, you probably don't know all of that. She was on my flight to England a few weeks ago. I saw her. I saw young ladies walking up to her. I saw the caliber of young ladies walking up to her, trying to engage her, and so on. And I'm like, I wish we will have hundreds of women like this. Not me. It's not in my place to judge anybody's lifestyle and what anybody does. And I think that societies have space for everybody, apart from criminals, right? Society has space for Wizkid and for King Sunny Ade. Society has space for everybody, right? And as long as it's legal, what I'm asking for example, from a Nigerian perspective, is for us to have that breadth, that variety. So that you don't have to be a Tony, you can be Segun Agbaje and still be as visible, and still be as inspiring, and still be as influential as Elumelu. You may have more private jets than Elumelu. You may even be fitter, but you don't even want to use social media, right? And you don't have to be VDM. VDM has his style. It's adding value. David Ondeni has his style. It's adding value. Fisayo Shoyonbo is there. He's adding value. So just to have a range where, and that's what I think America has, where you can have TMZ and you have the New York Times, where you can have mad people. Like I go to New York and it fascinates me. There is everything. Everything is there. New York is my example of the world, the united world. Everything is just there. What I find here is that it just looks as if, oh boy, now this is the trend now, Abi. Everybody just follows. There's no agenda setting because people don't have the resources, the bandwidth to risk. If I now start doing television show now, I will now be getting 200,000 views. They will now pay me extra. Oh, I want this one is getting 14 million views. People don't mind tearing their clothes and breaking stuff just to make sure that they escape poverty. Does the government have a role to play? Yes. Does media have a role to play? Yes. Does school have a role to play? Yes. Does church and mother, they all have a role to play. But based on the trend, based on what we know, based on what is happening, based on what is going to happen, increasingly going forward, people who are going to get into office, people who are going to get into government, people who are going to become celebrities are going to be people who have no shame and who have no reluctance, quote and unquote, being bad. You're going to find that what is defined as talent, you know, some people's talent is just being known. You know, the Kardashians used to be criticized that they were talentless. And I say, no, don't say that they are talentless. That we're even talking about them means that they are talent. The ability to get attention is going to be a valid talent. The fact that you know what to do for 40 million people to come and listen to you or to talk about you is going to be a talent. To get streams, right? So now artists, touring is dropping. The music industry is in a very, very funny place and all of that. I mean, you know, nobody says, well, your music was streamed 1.4 million times last week, but because your music is not that great, because you don't really sing well, and so on and so forth, you know, we are going to pay you less than we are paying this guy who sings very well. It's just by stream numbers. Same with YouTube. Mr. Beast has a style. He's doing what he has to do. Our guy, Diary of a CEO, has a style. We've entered a point where, unlike the concert days where you liked Michael Jackson, you really don't care. There were no views, there were no streams. But you knew what to, something became a hit song because it touched something. Right? So we're going to enter an age where this attention currency is going to be an actual currency. The challenge that we have, the work that we have, is to make sure that it doesn't damage society, that it can be harnessed in such a way that the loudest voices are not the criminal voices, are not the damaging voices, and the trends are not the ones that will make countries start fighting each other, the ones that will make people start getting killed and so on and so forth. So it can be harnessed if we understand what is bound to happen, if we study it more, if we invest in it. And I want Africa to have its own platforms. Everything we've spoken about here today are foreign platforms. There's a cultural significance of that. I want Africa to have its own platform. We need to study it. We need to know it. We need to apply the nuance. And we need to, I want the loudest voices. So that even if you are tearing your cloth and you are trying to grab attention, it's a mean towards an end. So that you are doing it because you understand that this guy, because really, Michael Jackson was an entertainer. He did what he had to do. The band did what he had. The band came on stage with a towel when nobody had ever done it. There is nothing wrong with trying to cut attention. But as long as you are not polarizing, you are not dividing. When, as long as what you are doing doesn't lead to a policy that's going to rob women of their rights, or that's going to cause children to get killed, or that's going to thwart the democracy, and so on and so forth. You've let me speak for too long.
That's it, Charlie. Look, Ayeni, let me say what I've never said to any guest. You have been my most complete answering guest, because all the things I might have asked you, you have answered in that long, expose. I was going to ask you, so what should a young, decent person who is talented do?
Yeah.
I was going to ask you whether the people who are shameless, whether there's going to be a backlash. But in these things that you've spoken, which is why I let you talk, because you were answering everything.
Yeah.
Everything has its own place. You can cut attention without being shameless as well.
Yeah.
Just know that you have to put in work. In fact, I guess the message for a decent person would be to say, look, just look at what you're doing. Don't gauge your numbers with what the person who lacks shame is doing. Just think of the way you can add value and grab attention as well. So that's why I say you are the most complete guest. And this is what I want to say in as we end this finally. And to think that I had to twist your arms and twist your hand to come to this show. To think that I had to literally beg you. See all the value you have dropped now. You people should speak more. You should speak more.
My wish, my prayer to God is to be able to exit my business very soon, so that I can dedicate my time to supporting things that can help my community. My company is 20 years next year. I've spent the past 20 years of my life trying to escape poverty, trying to build an organization. We've been very fortunate. The past 2 years have been extremely tough, excruciating. My wish is that I'm young enough to exit that business and be able to add value. I started my career in the media. My wish is to be able to apply everything one has seen, everything one has learned, to be able to add value in government, in civil society, to private organizations, to charities, to students. I like to teach. So I think that's why I gave the Elumelu example, where there were things they couldn't do when he was the MD of a bank. We didn't see Shegun Baji when he was the MD of a bank. He's now the MD of a holding company. He might switch. I saw videos from his 60th birthday a few weeks ago. He had the video performing. It was nice. I don't think he would have put that out when he was the MD of GT Bank. So I think life is also in seasons and all of that, and you have to just find a way to balance it. What we need to do is to also train the patrons, the people with the check, people who write the checks, the technology companies who write the checks. I advise clients, I don't care if somebody has 40 million followers. Why do we need them? If we are trying to talk to cyclists, if we're trying to talk to people who like bicycles and who ride, maybe we should go into Pit Stop Lagos. Okay, so I try to explain influence as different from followership. People might even know you and not even like you, right? You might be infamous, you might be known. Followership does not always equal influence, and influence does. So it's for those of us on this side who also advise organizations, and organizations who also put people, because at times we make stupid people famous, at times we make bad people famous, at times we make evil people famous, even in how you consume, how you patronize what is out there, to understand that, the purpose for the. Otherwise, what is going to happen is that everybody will want to go on YouTube and have Mr. Beast level of followers. Now, YouTube has enough technology and structure to keep away bad, quote and unquote, right? And I think these platforms are going to be more and more responsible going forward. But not every consumer is discerning, right? So to get to a point where the guy with 25,000 followers can play at his level, and the guy with 2 million followers can play at his level, and we all don't have to be dancing on Instagram, and we all don't have to be cooking up lies and arranging fights and doing all of that to get heard. That's a genre. That can be a genre, right? The dancing can be a genre. The people tearing each other's clothes can be a genre. So just to have one, and everybody is playing in their space, as opposed to this where vendors believe that, oh boy, if you are not dancing, or if you have not participated in one challenge, and so on and so on and so forth. So there should be space for Pella, and there should be space for Timid Akolo. And there should be space for Waje, and there should be space for Sophie, right? Just to have a society where and people are trained and exposed and educated enough to choose what works for them, which is how brands are. If you want to buy a phone, there's a broad range. What I'm asking for is people to be aware of the conditioning going on, because at times your brain is changing and you are not aware. At times, some thoughts you think is yours, it's not really yours. There's conditioning going on, and it's so subtle that you don't really know. So for us to pay attention and understand what is going on, so that we can be a bit discerning, I've asked for increased media literacy across board, and the risk of misinformation and disinformation is present and it's dangerous for government. But at the individual level, like my personal account, I'm very stingy with people that I follow, because I'm very deliberate about what I consume. I literally have a separate account where I follow all the guys I know I can't afford to follow, but my work requires that I know what they are doing. Well, my personal account, you're going to be, you are literally, I'm consuming you. It's like food. We don't understand it. I'm very deliberate. My Twitter, I'm on social media to learn and improve my life and for my work. Otherwise, I wouldn't be. And 3 years ago, I decided to take social media off my phone. As I talk to you now, even if I'm bored and I want to go on Twitter, I can't. I want to go on Instagram, I can't. It was deliberate. At the individual level, we have a very limited time here. Some of us will live for 40 years, some for 50, some for 60. Even if you live to be 80, it's just a minute. We have to be careful that when you check your screen time, by the time you are going, it's fair somebody be saying, yeah.
So, Ayeni Adekunle, thank you very much.
Thank you so much for having
coming
me.
on the show.
Thank you.
All right.
Enjoyed myself. Thank you.
I'm glad.
Thank you.